Is that it? Greg asked. I told you, I fucking rule, Jack said. Greg opened his arms and enveloped Jack in a warm bear hug. I didn't feel anything, thank you. I noticed the high pitch of Greg's voice for the first time. How soon that would change. Everything would. I could recite all the expected changes from the definitive medical therapy and health maintenance for transgender men. The permanent and reversible effects mingled in a dissonant clinical poem. Heightened sex drive, muscle growth, fat redistribution, increased body odor, facial and body hair growth, clit growth, stretching of the vocal cords, weight gain. With that shot, Greg had triggered malpuberty. If he continued his bi-weekly injections, he'd break through the squeaky voice and adolescent acne into adulthood, and be rewarded with the traits common among grown men, like male pattern balding. It was hard to tell which were the desired effects and which the side effects. The clinical poem sounded like the FDA-required warnings on prescription drug commercials, where I found myself wondering if anyone would really ask your doctor about the latest and greatest drug if thoughts of suicide and anal leakage were mentioned as possible outcomes. But the cold, detached language of medicine had a way of fading into the warm flesh and blood of the actual people who benefited from the treatment. Greg placed the covered needles and vial back into the Tupperware box and sat cross-legged on his bed. Do you remember what your first shot felt like, he asked Jack. It's changed over the years. Now it's like nothing to me, Jack said. He was perched awkwardly on the edge of the bed. On a silver chain around his neck, I noticed the Hebrew characters for l'chaim, meaning to life. As he'd tell me later, he got the chain after his 18th birthday, around the time he began taking testosterone. When is stuff going to start happening? Greg ducked his head, leaned forward, and whispered, like my hoo-ha. Oh, you'll feel it, Jack said. You'll be like, whoa, hi. You may be creeped out at first, but the tranny cock is fun. I added tranny cock to my list of names for the dicklet, or what those reliant on textbook physiology called an enlarged clit. Can you penetrate with it? Greg asked expectantly. Kinda, if you find the right angle, Jack said. Trust me, it's worth it. The teeny weeny changes everything. I wrote down teeny weeny, wondering if it was something I could, in good conscience, publish. Apparently. I quickly learned rule number 1 in transgender etiquette was not to focus or define people by what's between their legs. This made sense. In daily life, I paid no attention to the genitals of cisgender or cis people, as my readings referred to folks who are not trans, those whose gender identities and presentations matched the sex they were assigned at birth. But nowhere in the medical literature or the personal stories I'd read did anyone mention waking up with morning wood, as Jack just did, nor make it sound so appealing. Like me, Greg understood what tea did in theory, but he wanted to know what it had done to Jack, and by extension, what it would do to him. Does your orgasm change, Greg asked. I used to have more. Now 1 and I'm done for a while, Jack said. But it's big. Are you less emotional? I'm less labile, but I'm still emo. Can you cry? I don't cry often. Is that bad? Sometimes I feel like I need to, but I can't. We should get you Beaches, or Steel Magnolias. Or maybe a guy movie, like Rudy. Greg fired away relentlessly, asking over and over again about emotions, acne, shaving, joint pain, spatial sense, smell, taste, and energy levels. The effects were too enormous to contemplate. I understood having a physical sense of self in the male ballpark, especially now that I'd experimented with packing. But to live as a man seemed so extreme, unbearably uncertain. How did Greg know that after devoting the next couple years to a second puberty and a life-altering change, that he would be happy to be recognized and treated as a man? I flipped my pen against the side of my chair in anticipation of each question. Do bowel movements change, Greg asked. Because of the oil. More times a day, not solid. So it's true. Men are full of shit, Greg said. Will I not want to cuddle? Will I stop asking for directions? A guffaw shot out of my mouth. Jack turned around to face me. Aren't you supposed to be taking notes? I looked down at my blank piece of paper, my pen frozen in my hand. Embarrassed, I tipped my notebook up toward me. Oh, I'm just teasing you, Jack said. His mouth curved up into the charming moon sliver of a smile. Had I believed I was anything more than a naive little pest, I might have engaged with my own coy reply. I'm catching a few things, I said instead, and jotted down. Are you any different from them? My mind had run off on a marathon of what testosterone could do to me. Would you be happier as a man, I wrote and closed my notebook. If I wanted to be a man, I would know, I thought. I would have to know. I would always have known. Wasn't that what my trans reading course was teaching me? What Greg had been trying to tell me with his stories of stuffing his underwear with a sock as a kid, his recollections of peeing standing up? Greg tapped Jack on the leg. Hey, what are you doing now? You want to go to Hooters? Fuck yeah, Jack sang. Are you guys serious? I asked. The wings are to die for, Greg said. I found chains and greasy food awful enough without throwing the exploitation of women's bodies into the mix. I knew the argument that a woman could choose whether to work at Hooters or not, but until there were as many schlongsterants run by women as there were restaurants run by men, I wasn't buying it. Greg and Jack didn't so much invite me, as they didn't care one way or another if I tagged along, and I returned to my reporter role to avoid my moral quandary about patronizing Hooters. The bright light of the sun did little to cut the crisp winter chill. A brisk wind blew debris, leaves, and trash along the sidewalk. The two of them walked stride for stride, and I shot behind, allowing them a respite from the interloping journalist. Greg threw his arm around Jack and pulled him in close, knocking his cap off in an affectionate headlock. With that one move, Greg shattered the last of my doubt that underneath his hard shell there was anything but a tender heart. At his shiny blue Hyundai, Jack opened the passenger side door and I climbed into the back seat. Within seconds, Greg launched another inquisition, this one about body hair growth. Do you get hair on your upper legs? Greg asked. Driving down a deserted side street, Jack kept one hand on the wheel and used the other to unlatch the silver skeleton buckle on his belt. He untucked his white undershirt from his jeans. Sorry, he said in my direction. Uncertain whether Jack was referring to the prospective peep show or his loss of driving control as the car wobbled across the whole street, I pushed myself forward between the seats. Oh, it's fine, I said. I want to see. Jack slowed the car down, tapped the steering wheel once with his palm to keep us from veering off into the line of parked cars, and then lifted his ass to scooch down his jeans. Ignoring the road, the three of us focused on the same spot as if searching for gold. We found only a pale upper thigh with thick black hair. You won't have as much hair as me, Jack said to Greg. I'm a Russian Jew. I too was part Russian Jew, other parts Ukrainian, Polish, and uncertain other hair-producing Eastern European countries. I blamed my genealogy for the dog names the boys in elementary school had taunted me with, the leg-shaving intervention by my bunkmates at sleepaway camp, and the brow waxing my first girlfriend demanded to shape the thick strips over my eyes. I clipped my seatbelt back across my lap and stared out the window. The thought of being a hairy man with back felt, ear whiskers, and butt fuzz made me queasy. Using the back of his hand, Greg stroked Jack's bristly cheek. You really are a hairy beast, he said. Aw, thanks, man, Jack said, tilting his head away with a coquettish smile.